Good evening, all of you. Uh, on behalf of the Ahmedabad Management Association, I would like to welcome all of you. Uh, oh, please take the seats. Nobody's going to welcome you. Sorry. No. How many of you are coming to AMA for the first time? About three, four of you, or maybe five. All right, wonderful. So AMA is very different from how you would see the typical event industry programs and stuff like happening. This is a hardcore institute. We call it as not just Ahmedabad Management Association, but as something which is always moving ahead. So thank you everyone for joining in. Today is a very special day in the sense that we have four women, very accomplished at very young age, and they're coming together to discuss about women at work. I mean, being the broader theme, of course, how they can advance together in all the fields and professions. But thank you so much for joining us on what is a summer evening on Thursday. But my role is very brief. Just to introduce AMA quickly, we do about some 900, 1000 programs a year. About one third of them are free of cost, which we call as open house, and then some training programs, MDPs, FDPs, and right up to postgraduate diplomas. Of course, we have had the honor of hosting some of the finest people of the city and the country, and by far, in fact, the world as well. We were taking a note recently. One of our lectures has hosted 7 Nobel laureates so far. So that's the kind of impact AMA has been able to make. But all the more reason for me to be joyful, because all the four committee members of programs committee, the four pretty ladies on the stage, I chair the committee as one of the three committee chairmen that we have at AMA. But I have a brief role, about 2-3 minutes, introducing Dhruvi, who is going to be moderating the session, and then she's going to take off from there. I'll also have to, beg your pardon for excusing myself, because I have a quick travel starting late today evening, so I have to excuse, but I'm sure I'm going to catch up on the Facebook Live as well and hopefully follow. But just to introduce our moderator of the day, and then I'll leave up to her to introduce the remaining three women. Dhruvi Shah Kashi Parekh is a seasoned corporate finance professional with a rich background spanning over 6 years, of course, and in investment banking, consulting, and advisory. She is the founder of Zeta Assurance, which is a boutique consultancy firm, financial advisory firm, and is into business modeling, financial analysis, valuations, and transaction advisory. Before founding Zeta, she was with Deloitte, which is again, one of the big fours, as we know, and she was leading several high stake deals, crafted impactful pitches, and developed financial models that shaped key business decisions. She is also a chartered accountant, a certified a chartered financial analyst, which is CFA, and is pursuing her CPA, and is a future registered valuer in India as well. She's an active member, of course, at the Ahmedabad Management Association of the Programs Committee, and is committed to making sure that the world becomes as diverse as possible, as inclusive as possible. So, Dhruvi, welcome on the dais. Of course, AMA belongs to you, but since you are on a formal role, I have the honor of presenting a flower, a bouquet, and something for the Women's Day. Which just happened. So, congratulations and thank you. All right. So that is it. That was my job for the day. I leave everything else to Dhruvi. She has 3 flowers, 3 mementos, and 3 things there. But yes, this is an extension to our Women Day celebrations. In fact, at AMA, we did not have anything on the Women Day because the whole world was doing something or the other. We thought that we'll do something for the entire month. And I'm very glad that my entire committee, not just the four women on the stage, Anchal, who was a family to me, Kanha, of course, everybody for that matter of fact, Sangna, who is a young lawyer, and everybody, Mrs. Tanna sitting at the back enjoying. Thank you for coming up, Giriraj bhai, because all of them have played a role in making sure that we put up a good show. So thank you so much. And Dhruvi, the floor belongs to you. Thank you. Yeah, most welcome.
Good evening, everyone. How's the Josh here? I don't see it yet, but I hope during and after the session, it's it's less quiet than it is right now. So I'm going to try to make it as informal as possible, if I'm allowed to. But it's fantastic to see so many people who've turned up to support women and women leaders across all fields. I'll just quickly get to the introductions and then we can go on with the seminar. First up, we have Dr. C.A. Aanchal Agrawal. Aanchal is a distinguished chartered accountant specializing in portfolio finance and wealth management with a doctorate in corporate finance restructuring. She is the founder of Aanchal A. Agrawal and Company and a stakeholder in GPPL. And it's currently going to be IPO'd soon. As an alumna of HL College, she has earned multiple university ranks and gold medals while excelling in academics and extracurriculars. She is an extraordinary chess champion and also does oratory work. She's also a key contributor to Gujarat Board's curriculum and serves on various professional boards like GCCI and the AMA's Programs Committee. She has won prestigious awards like Gems of ICAI, Gems of Profession by ICAI, and actively mentors young professionals as well. Please welcome Dr. C.A. Aanchal Agrawal. I'm not letting you go yet. I have a question for you. We're starting off immediately. So, Aanchal, I'm curious, if you weren't in finance, what other field would you be in?
If I wasn't in finance, what? I would have maybe been a lawyer because it's analysis and the same thing argumenting. Obviously, Okay, I would have been a lawyer, Sangna, and maybe a criminal lawyer because I'm an analyst by nature, so I analyze a lot of stuff. So I would have used there. Obviously, the money-making skills would have been used there because that was also a money-making profession. So that does come in play. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Aanchal. Next, we have Ms. Kanha Bakeri. Kanha hails from a family renowned for its illustrious legacy in the real estate development sector. With a family tradition spanning over 7 decades, in the industry, the foundations of entrepreneurship were established in the early years. Her father, Mr. Taral Bakeri, was actively, with his guidance, she was actively involved in the family business since her formative years. After completing her degree in entrepreneurship and business from London, she joined her father's business. Over the past 6 years, she has been instrumental in the management and evolution of the company. Starting out with roles in different departments, she now plays a comprehensive role overseeing all facets of their real estate development operations. As a female leader in a traditionally male-dominated industry, she has shattered barriers and paved the way for greater diversity and inclusion. Ms. Kanha Bakeri, everyone. Anywhere, sir. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. So, Kanha, tell us, what's the boldest decision you made in your career?
The boldest decision that I think I would have made in my career is to tell the senior employees and my dad to deal with me directly and not get dad involved, because only then I would have been able to take risks, take the decisions, although he would have been supervising it. But I think that's the boldest decision that I have taken, that I'm willing to make mistakes, just let me.
You want to accept the responsibility and everything that comes with it. That's amazing. Thank you, Kanha. And lastly, we have Ms. Sangna Kansagra. Sangna is an accomplished legal expert, policy strategist, and a driving force in the realm of governance and compliance. As the co-founder of With Law Firm and an empaneled central government counsel with the High Court of Ahmedabad, she has been at the forefront of shaping legal frameworks that align with evolving business landscapes. Her expertise stands beyond traditional governance, and also she actively champions ESG as a topic. She's now spearheading the formation of a non-profit organization which is dedicated to bringing international regulatory standards with local governance frameworks. A thought leader in legal innovation and compliance, she is an advocate for responsible business practices, corporate governance, and AI-driven legal policies. Her insights continue to shape key industry dialogues, making her a sought-after voice in business, law, and policy-making decisions. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Sangna. I think you should hold this because I'm going to ask you a question anyway. Okay, Sangna, if you could mentor your younger self, what is the one piece of advice you would give?
So I think the patience, it should be there, irrespective of the field. If I have to tell the younger mind that this is the key, then that is the only is patience. So that's my advice.
Yes, that makes sense. Everything happens at its own time, so we shouldn't be stressing out and just trust the process, right? Okay, can you guys hear me? I know it's a little late to ask you this question, but is it audible? It's fine? All the way back there? It's great. Okay, thank you so much. Now that we know our panelists a little better, we are going to kick things off with a quick icebreaker, right? Panelists, I'm throwing you a curveball right away, right? In just one word, describe what being a woman leader means to you. In just one word. Or two.
Hello. Yeah, it's working. Yeah. One word to me for women leadership would be versatility.
Okay.
Sorry, but I'd like to frame it in a sentence.
Okay.
For me, a woman leader is no different than a male leader. We're all very equal in today's day. So there's nothing different or not normal that we're doing, in my opinion.
Okay.
For me, it's be as much as possible is your acceptance. You
Okay.
accept all the challenges in whatever manner, in whatever way to comes to you. So it is be the acceptable.
Okay. Versatility, acceptance, and equality. I think that's the perfect kind of topic we're looking for, and it sets the stage right for tonight, right? But I'm going to start off with a quick reality check. Did you guys know that according to a 2023 McKinsey report, only 28% of the senior management roles globally include women? And to add to that, in India, it drops even lower to a whopping 18%. That's it. Yet, studies have shown that companies which have women as senior management in a company, they do 25% better than their competitors. So guys, what do you think should be done? Companies don't need DEI. They just need these stats. Maybe I should send a McKinsey report to every big company there and they can take a note of this, right? Tonight, we're not just here to discuss these numbers though, but to dive into personal stories, strategies, and mindsets which help us be women leaders and shatter the mindset that people already have, the preconceptions, right? So diving right into it, I have a question for the audience now, right? I'll get to it later, and if all of you can't stand, then I'd appreciate a show of hands soon. But they say that behind every successful man is a woman. And behind every successful woman is a man. maybe. Of course, it's possible, right? But there's also a story of grit, guts, and the occasional, what on earth am I even doing here, right? I'd love for each of the panelists to share a moment in their journey that shaped them as a leader. And it can be a challenge, it can be a funny oops moment that made you realize that being a leader is not so easy, or it can also be a bold decision you've made in your life. Let me go ahead and start first. Clearly, I'm not just moderating, I'm also being a part of the discussion. But for me, when I founded Zeta Assurance, it's a financial advisory firm. It was, and it still is, a roller coaster, right? Stepping out of my comfortable corporate job at a Big Four to start my own financial advisory firm felt like diving into the deep end and not knowing how to swim. There were moments of doubt, which they are still there, and they're always going to be. But I realized that taking calculated risks is what fuels growth. Now, every project or problem is an adventure for me, and that's the mindset which has become my secret sauce, right? I treat every challenge as an adventure. So every day, every project, every client is an adventure for me, and that's how I take it, and that's how I go on my own little adventures, which nobody knows about, usually because we have client confidentiality in investment banking. But guys, over to you. Please tell us one of your experiences which
For me, I didn't found my own company. I joined a business which was already there, set up by my dad, who built it up from ground level. So for me, the most challenging part was to fit in, handle that pressure that you have to prove yourself. There are employees who've been in the company longer than you've been alive, and gaining respect from those people was the main challenge that was there for me. Over than that, it was also that I had limited myself, that if I walked into a meeting, I'd constantly think about how would others think of me? How would I be perceived? I was just 21, 22 years of age. Like, would they be thinking that, do I deserve to be here having this position? So whenever I'd go into a meeting, if I wasn't 100% sure of what I was going to say, I just sit there quiet. And later I realized that this was actually holding me back than doing me any good. So eventually I shifted my focus on proving it to myself first, then proving it to my father, or proving it to my employees, and really focusing on what I could bring to the table, what value I could add, and then really working hard towards that particular thing. So that mindset change was really important for me. What was very internal, but that was the biggest challenge that I had to face.
it was a self-taught lesson where
Yes.
you were reflecting upon what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Right.
Right. That's interesting. Thank you.
So for me, it's always been at every stage. I come from an Agrawal Marwadi family, and most of you all know that it's more about business, a lot about money, and you have so much of it that education is the last thing on your mind, because at the end of the day, we still stay in a society जहाँ हम इसलिए पढ़ते हैं क्योंकि that helps us to earn money. But if you're already earning money, that whole point of educating yourself goes away. But thankfully, I did belong to a very strong male-headed family where my grandfather, not even my father, believes that a girl should be educated more than a guy should be. So I was, but then it was a struggle because my father is a chartered accountant. So it was like, if he's a CA, you can do a CA, as if he's going to write my exams. But that was a constant struggle throughout my CA years. And they were like, why, आपको शादी ही करनी है, तो why do you want to study? Why do you want to pursue a career? Then when I did get into a career, I wanted to go for PhDs. So then there's this whole question that if you're going to be so educated, how is it going to be perceived by the world outside? Even on today, on a daily basis, even when I want to get an IPO for my finance company, they say there's no girl out in the market who's done it. Aisa, I would really welcome what I was even telling the last time was I have not met a woman in finance who's had her own company, not her husband's company, not her father's company, but her own self-made company into the finance sector. You might find women in the banking sector, in the administrative staff, but how many of us actually find women in hardcore finance, taking analysis decision. Jabki, if you look at it otherwise, women are the one who are making all the financial decisions of our household. From your smallest decision to the largest decision, it is the women who are doing it. So finance is inbuilt in you. But when it comes out on the largest stage of life, it is questioned. So it's a struggle that yes, I'm facing it, where questions are like, hum sir se discuss kar lenge. It still comes up to me because they think I am not just the boss of my work. I am somebody and I have to report it to someone else. So I have to be very polite, because then the whole matter just, if I get angry, then the whole point just fades away. So I make sure to put it across that I am my own boss and you have to report it to me, and please get it across, because I've heard statements like women are emotional, आपको नहीं समझ आएगा मैडम, नहीं समझ आएगा, and I'm like नहीं, आप मेरे को समझाएंगे तो I'll understand it. So you know, those are the struggles, and now that I'm doing my company, that is still an ongoing struggle, where for the IPO documents or when I sit for the meetings, they keep on saying, ma'am, और कोई है जिससे हम discuss करें? Is anybody else coming in the room? So I have to say no. It's me. I'm the final decision maker. Please continue. So for me, yes, that is it. But I always feel that it's changing. Maybe they don't think that way about me at the start of the discussion. But by the end of the discussion, I make sure that with the knowledge that I have gained and all the sanctity and all that patience that Sangna put, the patience that I keep through the discussions, I make sure that at the end of the day, respect me enough to come back and feel that, yeah, we are not giving, she's not guiding us, or we are not discussing with somebody who does not know what she's doing it. So for me, yes, that is a struggle.
I agree. I completely agree. Judging a book by its cover or just by its gender absolutely doesn't work, because women are only going to increase on the boards, and people, even other women in fact, will have to communicate with other women, right? So it's only going to become a case of normalcy soon enough. Thank you.
For me, the real struggle starts with when we are born as a girl. As our society grows, now it's not there, of course, but in the legal profession, everybody is knowing that this is a male-dominating field. When you enter in the room and the room is full of male advocates are there, you have to make your own way by making yourself very clear, to the point, and sharp enough to cope up with all the available in the room. So in my case, it's always, every day there is a struggle in the room. If a male advocate is there, and if the female is there representing the different parties, then the aspect of judging is altogether a different thing. But now it's changing. We have to change it. Otherwise, we have to be acceptable enough that this is the scenario, but I want to make something. I want to be something. I want to be a leader, and I want a justice for my client. For that, they are paying us, and we have to do it irrespective of the gender we are. So this is the scenario in my case. So my case, it's always a struggle, and we have to fight every day being a woman. And as a woman, we are a good managers compared to...
I think we're natural born managers, because we manage a household, we manage the children. I mean, now the dynamics are changing for sure. Men are so nice right now. Like now they're pitching into the household work, they're pitching into the children's education, picking up children from school. I mean, no matter whatever small thing it is, I've seen so many of my friends as well who are men and who know how to cook. That is amazing. That is amazing. Now we finally realize that cooking is a survival skill. It's not just something you just eat and you're done with, right? So the agenda is changing for sure, and I feel like more and more women are getting inspired, I mean, every single day. And thanks to everyone, even men who make that happen. It's a big thank you to everyone for that. And I'm going to shake things up now and include the audience a little bit. So I'll call out a few statements, and if it's applicable to you, please just raise your hand or wave it. I'm not going to ask you guys to stand up. I know it's late in the evening and nobody wants to exercise at this time. You guys haven't come here for that. So let's get on with it. Raise your hands if you've ever been the only woman in a meeting. This doesn't apply to the men, but the next statements will. Raise your hands loud and clear. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Please raise your hands and keep them raised up, sorry. Raise your hands if you've been called too ambitious, like it's a bad thing. Yeah, just keep your hands, because I promise there's a message coming at the end of this game. So please raise your hands up and keep them raised, right? Raise your hands if you've absolutely crushed a project or presentation where no one saw it coming. Yes, we have a few people who've done all of it. That's great, that's amazing. Raise your hands if you've challenged a stereotype or redefined expectations in your field. Now, this applies to men as well. Have you challenged a stereotype? Yes, you have, by just being here and supporting us. Thank you so much. Just raise your hands, guys, loud and clear. I'm getting the last one. Raise your hands if you've ever helped another woman rise, whether through mentoring, cheering, or just being her hype squad, right? So now look around, guys. Keep your hands up, please. Now look around. Look around. That's what the strength in numbers looks like. That's what it looks like, right? Every time one of us breaks this barrier or any barrier, we're not just making space for ourselves. We're actually holding the door open for others to go through, which is a brilliant thing, right? Even to be civil, to hold the door for people, please do that, everyone. Even women have to do it now, not just the men. So let's keep pushing, lifting each other up, and making sure that next time we play this game, everyone, every single person in this room will have their hands up for every single question, right? So let's keep that going. I also bet that many of us have faced moments where we've had to prove ourselves in a room full of skeptics, right? I'd love your take, panelists. What's your go-to strategy when you face a situation when you're the only woman on the decision-making table and have no voice or have not been heard? What do you do? How do you combat that? How do you make your voice heard?
Actually, that's the case in every single meeting, that when you're sitting with a room full of men, they don't even look at you when they're discussing something. You're just there, invisible to them. So the strategy, I think it's more like a thinking process rather than a strategy. I feel that there are two things: contribute and be competent. So you should know what you're talking about, and even more important, you should make the other person realize that you know what you're talking about. Only then will they really listen to you and be open to your perspective. Oftentimes, once you actually let them know that you genuinely know your subject well enough, I've seen the dynamic shift rapidly. That earlier they were not even listening to you, not even looking at you, and once you start making sense and you show them that you know what you're talking about and yes, you deserve this seat, I've seen that mostly 99% of the case, they do start respecting you. I've dealt with farmers who landowners, they're not educated, they haven't been to such seminars, no one in their family is a woman leader or even an employee at some bank or anything, but even they start respecting you. Even they are willing to ask you questions, take your approval and all of that. But it takes time, and I think you should be prepared that the other person should know that you were competent enough.
Absolutely, absolutely. What about you, Anchal?
So the thing that I've learned over the years is I love being in a room where I'm the only woman, because it gives me the whole ability to observe people by being invisible. And that gives me the real knowledge about each person's character. When they know you are someone or they treat you as an equal, they might, put up a phony attitude and stuff. When they think you're no one or you're no one to be talked to or considered, they show their real selves. So I enjoy being in that kind of room. And, I don't know, it's a competitive or ambitious nature, as you made us ask questions. I love proving that kind of room wrong. I just love it. I love being in that kind of room. And all the time, I have made it a mindset that I don't classify myself as a woman. and also not an equal to man. I always tell myself, am I competent enough? Am I knowledgeable enough to sit amongst them? If I don't know something, I'm willing to ask questions. I don't mind learning. And if I know something or I can contribute to that discussion, I make sure I do that. So I'm treated as an equal. And those kind of barriers in the mindsets of people or in the room or on the table of discussions, it goes away with time. See, we need to understand it's a conditioning. It's not something that comes from within or it's taught to them. It's something that is inculcated right from their birth. When you are a small child, it's like small notions like saying that to a child, okay, you know, why are you crying like a girl? Something like that, okay, you know, why tum ladki jaise kyun
Why are
ro
you
rahi ho?
running like a girl?
Why are you running like a girl?
I'm going to start saying, can you cook like a man? Because we have a Maharaj and he cooks the best food there's ever.
So all the chefs in the
Made,
world,
so-
just
Yeah,
off topic,
I also.
all the chefs in the world are males and somehow cooking is a women's job. I do not know why. Except for the mother's love, which I totally accept, and that's why I said versatility, because that's a leadership role and you take it. So when I am in a room, I enjoy being the only one because it also helps me pave way for so many other women who might not have had a chance to be there, but by that mindset change, they get it there. I also believe that we have the onus of being patient, not getting angry. You know, sometimes we scream and shout and we tell in our heads that I'm being treated this way because I'm a woman. But you know, that just undermines the whole subject, the process, the fact that you're sitting there, you're privileged to sit there, and you can make that change. I know the kind of responsibility it brings to my shoulders, so I'm patient enough and I don't get angry easily. As I said, I enjoy being in that kind of room and I love proving them wrong each and every time. Yeah.
That is brilliant. Thank you so much, Anshul. What about you, Sangna?
So for me, the go-to strategy is be firm, have the clarity, have the in-depth knowledge, patience, and acceptance. If these 5 things are with you, no one can stop you. In whatever room you are, if you are firm enough, no one can stop anybody, anywhere, irrespective of gender. So sometimes ऐसा भी होता है कि males are facing issues like us. In many ways we have seen. So it's not like that. These 5 things should be there, and go with that. Have the confidence and break the barriers. If you are having clarity, you are having knowledge, you can do whatever you want to do.
Absolutely.
That is my go-to strategy for
Absolutely.
every day. For women in career and for women in house as well. So these are the key aspects for both the lady working in different areas.
I think I would also have a stand which is similar to all of yours. Like, I think preparation is key. You have to know your numbers, have a solid argument, and you have to deliver it confidently, and then let's see who's going to ignore you, right? So that changes the entire dynamic. I would also sometimes maybe observe, like you said, Anchal, and take a sense of the room first, and then prepare myself. Because once I'm prepared, and if they have an argument, then it's only a learning for me. Where, okay, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I will be better next time by inculcating what they've pointed out, you know, that must be wrong. So absolutely, preparation is key, right? So now we're gonna shift gears again. I know I keep shifting gears. I'm an F1 fan, but let's have some fun with the panelists. They don't know about this bit, and it's a quick rapid fire, right? I'm just going to throw something at you. I mean, not literally, but just give me the first thing that pops into your mind. What's the biggest leadership lesson you've learned? Quickly.
For nurturing young lawyers.
Perfect. Awesome.
Be selfless, think about others first and then yourself.
That's great. That's a good leader.
Patience.
Patience. Patience is key. Okay. For me, I think the biggest lesson I've learned is, as Confucius would say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Or you're just going to get a lot of work. So, yes. What's the one thing you do to de-stress after a long day?
Read and lots of reading. If I'm not doing anything, I'm found between books. That's what I do.
My answer actually is on those lines as well. I think curiosity killed the cat because the cat was too curious. Sometimes you have to be a little curious. And of course, reading. I love that.
And maybe if I'm too stressed, then baking, because I love that whole
Okay.
that whole very monotonous.
It's like you're hitting someone, you're just churning
Exactly.
someone out of. Yeah. Kana, what about you?
I de-stress myself every day in the morning before going to work. I enjoy a good heavy workout and then be ready for the rest of the day.
Okay.
Music enhance my ability. So when I am stressed out, I listen music.
That's amazing. That's
Sitting
amazing.
relaxly and enjoy some music, instrumental one then. That will boost me.
Exactly. So I would also pick up a sport, an art form, or maybe yoga or art, but everything will be with some background music. Maybe I'm blasting it sometimes when I'm in that kind of. You have something to add, Kana?
Yeah, I'd also like to say that it helps a lot while you're de-stressing when you have a good support system around you.
Absolutely.
Your parents, your partner, your
Absolutely.
siblings. It's really essential that you really support, listen to what they have to say. You don't need to offer any solutions, just be there to listen to what they have to
Absolutely.
say.
Yeah. Communication.
There
and
is
just being
always
there.
one therapist in our family for everybody who keeps listening us.
I hope
And,
it's the mother. All mothers have that
no.
perpetual
For
job.
me, it's father. Sorry.
It's your
For
dad.
me, it's my dad.
Your daddy's girl there.
Yes, absolutely.
That's great. Okay. What's a skill every woman leader should master? Just one that comes to you, the top of your
Again,
head.
patience.
Patience. I think that's the theme of the day. Guys, just be patient. You all are going to be woman leaders really soon. But not really soon because patience.
Confidence.
Confidence. That's great.
So somehow I feel leadership is not a female or a male trait. So leadership in itself should have the one skill that any leader for that
Any
matter,
leader.
should
Any
do,
leader.
right?
Let
Exactly.
me rephrase that.
Yeah, so I would say the ability to learn, to be a quick learner, because with the kind of world that we are in and the kind of deal stuff that we are doing, it's changing every day. So the ability to learn also that brings in you a humility
Yes.
that you do not know it all.
Because you know what you don't know,
know,
and that
exactly.
really gets you back to the
On
ground,
ground, yes,
right? Exactly. Okay, one woman, dead or alive, that you would love to have coffee with. All of you can also think of your answers. How would you answer this? And maybe I can ask a few of you what your answers would be after this round.
So a woman dead that I would like to have coffee with would be Indira Gandhi. And a woman alive is Anushka Hegde, if she's Vijay Siddharth's wife, the CCD owner's wife. She's a huge inspiration for me. And she's someone I go to anytime I'm stressed and I just look at the kind of miracles that woman is creating. So I would love to have. The list is endless. It could be Sudha Murthy next. Or
Oh, you want to have a lot of coffees lined
I
up.
wish there was a table we could have all of them.
You want to have a panel discussion with them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Alive, I think Michelle Obama. I'm just very, very inspired by her. And I think dead, it would be my maternal great grandmother. I've heard so many things about her leadership skills, about her business skills. My great grandfather would not take any decision without discussing it with her once. And I've heard so many stories about her that I'd really just like to have my own conversation with her.
That's amazing.
So
That's great.
for me, there are three ladies. One is a Sudha Murthy.
Okay.
So she is a great.
So you can join that panel then.
Yeah, I can join. So one of these there, and second is my mother, and third is my mother-in-law.
But that you can do
Yeah.
every day. You can
No,
have
no,
chai
I
with
want
them.
to go with them in a proper coffee shop and have the coffee.
Let's
And
make
have
that
the
happen.
Conversation outside the house.
Nothing about the house. If you talk about the house, you pay a penalty.
I think they are great leaders, come managers, come mentor. They are having so many hats. They are wearing so many hats.
I think all
We
the
need to
mothers
learn.
are,
Yeah,
but
all
they
the
just don't
mothers are.
realize it.
Yes.
How many mothers in the crowd? We have so many. That's amazing. You're also a mother. Yeah, that's why she's like, mothers are great. Mothers are, of course. Sangna, that was coming from an ulterior motive. Okay, last question. If you had a billboard, what message would you write on it? And like, tell everyone, look at this. Just, I'll start.
Yeah,
It'll give
thank
you a
you.
second to think. I would say a lot of women sometimes just sit at, just to get comfortable in their lives, and they are scared to get out of that comfort zone and go out, right? But so I would write on a billboard that success doesn't come to you. You have to go out and get it. You have to get it, you have to command it, you have to make that happen, right? That is what my billboard would be. Say anything.
So I've always believed the ultimate goal of, I think a lot, introspection and all. I think the ultimate goal of anybody's life is being happy, being successful. So I have trained myself, and I think that's what is my go-to mantra, which I would put on a billboard is, happiness is a state of mind. Nobody can buy it for you, nobody can get it for you. And as women, what we do is we try to find in everybody around us. Whether
I think we're happy when everyone else around us is happy.
So there's something that I like to share. This is something that I learned very young, thankfully, to my mother. She said, if a glass is full, उसमें अगर पानी भरा होगा, तभी वो overflow होगा. You cannot be happy or love others when you yourself are not full. So for me, you have to learn to love yourself. You have to learn to be happy yourself. Again, it's a state of mind. Amongst the chaos, I remember to be my own anchor. It could, it's like, somebody taught this to me, stand as if the worst raid is happening around you and you're dealing with it. Just be like that on every day of your life. And that's taught me. So that would be my billboard for everybody, that happiness is a state of mind. And, I think everything comes after that. It just comes after that.
Everything follows. That's good. Are you prepared? That inspired you?
So I think it's, I'll write, don't give up and keep pushing yourself every day.
You know that I won't lie to you. I was talking to my mom last night, and she legit said, keep trying and pushing yourself. Yeah. Exactly
pushing
what you
your
said.
Boundaries every day.
I think all mothers have this wire which is telepathically connected. Thank you, Sangna. Anchal? Sorry, Kanha.
I'd like to address it to parents, to give your children wings, be it a girl or a boy. Don't tell them that you can do this or you cannot do this, or for a girl that this occupation is more suited for a girl. Today you can do anything, so don't tell them what they cannot do.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, we've talked about our journeys. We've talked about our challenges and wins. But let's dream a little now. Imagine it's 2035 and we've crushed all the glass ceilings inside. Everything we talked about, all the issues, everything has disappeared, right? What does that look like for you? How, for women leaders actually, not just leaders, men already have it. I mean, per se in boardrooms, right? But for women, we've shattered it and we've made it there. What does that look like for you?
So for me, if it's 2035,
does life become easier?
Yeah, it is now becoming easier. It will be, of course. Women are shaping changes, landscape is, they are in the policy changes, even in the any field, in pharma, you talk about the film industries. So many women are breaking their barriers. Now everybody is accepting that as well and appreciate that. So I think there is nothing like equality, but everybody's have their own perspective and own work style, and everybody is accepting that. So there is no, in future, there is no board is full of the male directors only.
There's no gender bias.
Yeah, there is no gender bias.
It's all just people.
Yes.
People in a room. That's
people
what we are.
If you are having knowledge, if you are having ability, and if you are able to execute whatever you have decided, irrespective of gender, you can do it.
That's a beautiful circle to preparation is key again. Nice.
And keep it short. For me, it would be the day when we would not need to have such seminars which are called women leaders advancing together in all fields.
Absolutely.
There wouldn't be a term called girl boss.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't need that. I think that's the day I dream of.
That's a nice dream.
I think 2035 would be too mythical for me, Dhruvi. That's just 10 years down the line. But if I dream for that kind of world, I would dream for a world where equality is not a myth, it's not a concept, it's a reality. Work or no work, it's a choice. That should be for me, that is feminism. For me, that would be success. whether in boardrooms, whether at home, whether anywhere else, even sports for that matter, anywhere, women and men, they are equal for their opportunities, and they're equal in every way that you can think of. Whoever is good at what they do, for me, that would be the world that I'm looking at. I just hope that comes true, and we all of us, and also, yes, the whole point of changing the conditioning, where it's okay to do certain things because you're a male and it's not okay to do certain things because you're female. Maybe we could just have changes on those lines. For me, that would be maybe a 2050. I would be happy to see it, at least in my lifetime.
That's great. We all share the same vision, and I'm 100% sure it's becoming a reality already. So let's hope that it's earlier than 2035 as well, and we don't have to wait that long. But enough from us, guys. I'm eager to hear if you guys have any questions for us or any leadership stories you want to share that you've personally been through. Please, I'm encouraging the crowd to become a woman leader and stand up for yourself. Anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask us now. Yes? Yes, we have a couple of hands. That's great. We'll come to you.
Hi, myself Meetal.
Hi, hi.
I'm working as manager HR with Bosch Rexroth India.
Okay.
Sorry for coming late, coming from office. So, okay, let me come to my question. I want to ask to Dr. C.A. Agrawal, C.A. Aanchal Agrawal. As Indra Nooyi has rightly said that, the biological clock of a woman and the career clock, these go simultaneously. So when you are at the peak of your career, when there's turning point comes when you are in mid management and shifting to the higher management level, you have to fight with your changes in your life. Like, you have your kids and their education is going on, critical time of their career also. So unlike foreign countries wherein female are considered as equal, male shares the responsibility, but here in India still that openness is yet to come. I'm just sharing the reality. So how to cope up with such challenges?
First of all, I'll disagree that yes, it's better abroad. I do agree, but that's a myth that abroad it's not like that. If it was so, then you would have, the numbers would speak. As Dhruvi rightly said, the numbers abroad are also not that good. Again, वहाँ जो difference है, it's because of the conditioning. जहाँ आप छोटे बच्चों से आप उनको सिखाते हैं, males and females as kids are treated equally, more or less. That is why वो जब बड़े होते हैं, sharing any kind of responsibility is not male, leaved or female leaved. कि ये काम लड़की का है या ये काम लड़के का है. So when they grow up, it does not, at least those kind of barriers are less than they are in India. Yes, I do agree that when you have those biological clock ticking and you have to get married and all, but I very strongly believe that if you keep on learning, keep on taking, if you stay updated, even if you take a step back, for those kind of times when you're having children or when you're getting married, it's not going to affect in the long run. It will not. And even if it does, I shouldn't use you, it's like we are creating civilizations. We actually are building the next generation. So वो competition में ही नहीं उतरना चाहिए कि who's better and what is better and success का क्या definition है. For me, my success could be seeing my child coming first in the class. For somebody, the success could be becoming the next CEO. It's very subjective. But as women leaders, we should make sure that whoever's vision is, we look down upon, if somebody does not want to have kids or they have kids late, and we try to pull them down. When are you having your kid? We're just discussing before, कब शादी हो रही है, कब first बच्चा हो रहा है और कब second बच्चा हो रहा है, यही questions हमारे discussion topics होते हैं. Let's just move away from that. Let it not just be a male onus, let it also become a female onus. Yes, I do agree वो है problems where, we have to take a step back, because we are nurturers by nature. We are nurturers. We cannot leave our kids to somebody. But the only thing that we can do is shape the next generation, condition them कि जो हमें problem आई है, our sons will not be what their fathers were. They would be understanding of those little things and would help their wives out. So their kids, maybe the next, we are sitting here because एक प्रीवियस जनरेशन ने कुछ सैक्रिफाइसेस किए हैं, तो वो सैक्रिफाइसेस को हम आगे लेके जाएं, हमारी जनरेशन वी जस्ट पास इट ऑन टू देम. I do agree, as I said, but those are the kind of changes, according to me, that we can do.
Absolutely. And in addition to what Anchal said, I think there are three things I would personally say as the answer to your question would be: one, start them early. Start early. We didn't get the opportunity to do it. Maybe some of us, right? But those who are from entrepreneurship families, you can see the change already. You know, you start early, you start having those discussions with your children, with your girls. The second would be maybe find a partner who's just as supportive so that you don't have to bear the brunt of the entire biological clock all by yourself, right? And third, it's easy to say this, but maybe encourage joining companies which care about women as people, right? And they understand that this is an actual thing and it's a choice, obviously, but we shouldn't have to make that choice. We should be able to have it all, right? Because men do, they get kids and they have their job, nothing changes for them. So why should it affect us? I agree that for 9 months it might, or a year, it might set us back. But if the organization is supportive enough, then I don't see any hindrance to this. I hope that answers your question, right? Thank you. Who's next? Yes.
My question is for Kana. I wanted to ask you that what motivated you to join the company besides your father?
Since I have an elder sister, we don't have a brother in the family. And ever since we were little girls, probably in 7th, 8th grade, my father used to take us and my mom to site visits. If we were thinking of buying a new land, it was always that we are thinking of buying a new land. This is the reason why I have decided to buy a land here. What do you think? So I was always involved in the decision making, maybe not in the operational sense, but I was always a part of decision making. I may have not taken any big decisions back then, but he made sure that we were part of it. So that way, I was always thinking about it in the back of my head. Even though I was studying, if we had sold a few apartments that day, my dad would come back and tell us that we sold these many apartments today. So it was always a family discussion. So for me, it was a very gradual step that I want to do this when I grow up. For my sister, it wasn't. She is an architect, but she still decided not to join the family business. But for me, it was a very gradual step. I didn't have to do much of thinking why I want to get into this. It was just very natural for me.
Thank you. But like she said, it starts early. Do you have a follow-up question? Sure.
I wanted to ask you that in future, are you planning to make your own dynasty besides Bakeri?
I would like to continue and add to my father's legacy. I would consider that my own achievement rather than having a separate company and starting from scratch. I'd rather build on his legacy, I feel.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else with questions, please feel free. This is an open forum and there's no judgment here. Yes, please.
How do you balance your work and personal life?
Who would like to take it? I can as well, but take it.
It's fine. So it goes hand on hand. You need a support of your family, your husband, your kids even. So if they are supporting, everything will go smoothly. So of course the key is you need a support, a good support from the family. And after that you can do whatever you want to. You can balance your personal and professional both. So it's all about again management as well. You need to manage. You need to design your whole day and give the equal importance to personal life and professional life.
Absolutely. Also, to add on to that, I agree. Clarity of mind, having extremely clear goals, and clear things to do. So what I do personally when I wake up in the morning, I make a list of how my day is going to be. And the second thing would be establishing boundaries, right? Work is always going to be there. Life is always going to be there. It depends on how much of both you can balance, right? Taking up too much on either side would be detrimental to health, which is the most important in all cases. So I think boundaries and clarity of what you have to do throughout the day really helps.
So I'm sorry, I'll give a very contradictory answer. I don't believe work-life balance जैसा कुछ होता है. I honestly don't believe it. I just think that there are some days when work just takes precedence over everything else. Right? Because on days like...
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So on days when I have my income tax, time, I can't say, my personal life is important. I wouldn't be sitting at a seminar. But then the days when I have my holidays, I make sure that those 7-8 days, I'm not available. So मुझे लगता है, certain words have become so fancy that we have made कि ऐसा possible है. I am a very realistic person, so I am very honest and blunt. Maybe it works for some people, it doesn't work for me. I don't have anything like a work-life balance. There are some days when I work 18 hours a day. Even after doing my CA, I was establishing my own firm and doing my PhD. I can't think I was working 8 hours, then doing 8 hours PhD. I don't know when I slept, when I woke up. Yes, but making a calendar helps. Decentralization, you know that letting go of control helps. हमें सब खुद करना है ना, again that's a conditioning. I'm sorry I'm repeating it again and again. It's a conditioning कि सब हमें करना है. Sometimes that ये important है कि वो काम हो रहा है. हर बार वो काम बहुत अच्छा हो या आपके जैसा हो वो ज़रूरी नहीं है, क्योंकि वो इंसान आपके जैसा नहीं है. He is not you or she is not you. Whether it's your maid at home, whether it's your staff at work, you have to let go that control and decide the priority in your life. So as I said, on some days my priority is my personal life, some days my priority is work, some days it just gets managed on its own because us din it gets balanced out. Like if I'm sitting here, my 3 hours of work is obviously going to be affected, but it's accounted for. So for me, that's how it works.
Right. So it's great that you're when you work, it's only work for you, and when you're on a holiday, it's only a holiday.
It's not just work. Yes, I have, but the personal life takes a backseat on those work days.
On those days.
Those
it's
days,
seasonal.
exactly.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. And micromanagement versus management, I think there's a whole session we can do on that. But yes, management, of course, I agree with you. We're not super people, all of us, men and women. I think delegating tasks is the single best thing you can do. Absolutely, the quality might not be like you would give your heart into it, but if it's even close to say a 90 to 95%, it'll happen with time as the person grows, gets seasoned with you. But it's possible. It's possible. Yes. Thank you. Oh, that's very interesting.
Then
There are
you
two
would
of us
understand.
here.
And you know what? Saying no works. Saying no really works. मुझे ऐसा लगता है हिंदू संस्कृति में, इंडिया में हमें ना बोलना सिखाया ही नहीं गया है somehow. We just cannot say no. जो काम आता है हमको लगता है, और एक फोमो हो गया है ना, something we'll miss out on something. So learn to say no. नहीं, मुझे अभी ये काम नहीं करना, या नहीं, मुझे अभी बाहर नहीं जाना. It's okay, I'll watch. I like sometimes just watching weird stuff, just like that's this craziest stuff. Nobody would believe a PhD is watching that, but
I think you're still thinking about work while you're watching that also.
So then I'm like, it's okay.
Yes,
So
but
saying
being
no.
selective is what you're saying, and I think that is a very important thing, which I'm also.
I'm so glad.
That's great. That makes 3 of us here practicing that, and we know what we've done to get here and be called a CA. Although we don't think about it every single day, but thank you so much for your question. It was very valid. Anyone else who has a question or wants to say anything about this session or their own story, please feel free. Or should I just pick people and ask questions? I don't think that would be preferred, yeah. Do we have anyone at all? We'll give you guys a minute. Okay, guys, we don't seem to have any more questions, and I hope you fill the feedback forms. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey with us. It was a very interactive session, and that's exactly how I wanted it to be. In case you have any other questions after this discussion as well, please feel free to reach out to any of us, right? We're available on LinkedIn, and our company names are written as well, so maybe you can just Google us. But thank you so much for making it, and all the women here, you guys are going to break barriers, and how? And all the men here, you guys are also going to break barriers. But thank you so much for supporting all of us women here. You guys are shaping the next generation of women. Thank you. Thank you so much.